رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. I'm going to discuss with you, my dear brothers and sisters, a topic which is perhaps never ever really discussed on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Jummah khutbah. Nowadays, when you go to the Jummah khutbah, the only thing you hear most of the time is Jazakallah, 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 and that's it. People want money for a car park, people want money for their cousin to come over for Mirpur, people want money for this, that and the other to build an extension, and that's all it really is. And in fact, when we talk about the signs of the hour or the end of times, what really comes to your mind? What comes to our mind is the appearance of the Dajjal, the one-eyed man, the Dajjal. You perhaps heard about this before. And one of the signs in relation to the appearance of the Dajjal in itself, for you to know how imminent is the presence of the Dajjal to us, is when people will not talk about him. When you find on the mimbar people not talking about him, then you know that his appearance is going to appear very soon. So you need to ask your own self, when was the last time that you went to a talk when you were hearing about the appearance of the Dajjal, about what his signs are, what his description is, what's going to happen when he arrives? Because even myself, when I was asked to give this topic, I found it a little overwhelming, because it's not something I talk about. I talk about other things. So you can see those signs, when we talk about the signs of the hour, they're divided in fact into two. And before we talk about those signs and what they are, first of all, we need to understand the purpose of why we're discussing this. We're not discussing the signs of the hour by way of entertainment. It's just some like film, it is like some Hollywood film. Even though we know the Yahud, they study a lot about Islam, about the signs of the hour, and then they'll make films from this. Even for example, some of the things that you heard maybe tonight, today, in regards to Ruqya and Jinn, maybe something clicked inside your mind, maybe some film that you saw, The Exorcist or something like that, and you think, I've heard about this before somewhere. Where these people, they got these ideas from? But the Quran and the Sunnah is not merely myth. It's not stories and myths and just tales for us to listen to, like some midnight story and we just go home and we think, that was something very good. Rather, it's a lesson for us. And that's why Imam Qurtubi, when he spoke about the signs of the hour, he said the entire purpose for us to study is so that we can take benefit from them. Not just to appreciate, this has happened, this is yet to happen. So that we can take lesson from it, so we have a reformation and change in our own character. A change and modification in our own Islamic personality. So the signs, when they're spoken about, for the true believer, he begins to understand, with regards to those signs that have already appeared, that this world is temporary. This world, it is temporary. The exact time and the date of when Yawm al-Qiyamah will happen, nobody knows. When particular events will in fact occur in regards to the signs of the hour, nobody knows. But it's obliged as a matter of aqeedah for us, for those people who claim to profess that they believe in Allah and His Messenger and follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon the way of itba' to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, then they are obliged to have yaqeen in Yawm al-Akhir, in Yawm al-Qiyamah, in the matters of the ghaib, of the unseen. Even if it's something which goes against your ration, we are not people who use our own aql. We're not meant to be using our own aql. We're meant to follow what Allah said, what the Messenger said. Why? Because the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nothing he utters from his own mouth except that is wahi, except that is revelation. So the minor signs, they are known as Sa'a Sugra, and the major signs, they're known as Sa'a Kubra. So for the true believer, when he understands these signs, he also then begins to appreciate that he's also going to be accountable. He's going to have this accountability, that paradise is going to be for the believers, hellfire is going to be for the disbelievers. And the Quran and the Sunnah then will run concurrently with our own life. And this is really what we want. This is our wish as du'at. This is our wish as Muslim brothers and sisters for one another, that we follow the straight path. We don't deviate away from it. We don't divert away from it. Why? Because every deviation is a misguidance. And every misguidance is only going to lead us to one place, the hellfire. From some of those minor signs, and I believe personally speaking, if you were to ask me my own opinion, not that it really matters, but the minor signs for us are probably more important than the major signs. Why? Because those minor signs, some of them are already occurred. And let me just run through them very briefly. The first of them being the coming of the last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This has already been mentioned, and this is already past. Time would move swiftly, such as like a month would be like a week would be like a day, and a day is like a couple of hours. How many of us here can testify to that? This morning we woke up 9 o'clock in the morning, subhanAllah, it's almost 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. Time going by so fast. Only yesterday you were in the school, getting your education, then you got your degree. Next thing you know, you got 4 children. You can't even remember their dates of birth, but you got 4 children running around. You got maybe 2 or 3 wives, you've forgotten where they live, but you got 4 wives, or 3 wives. Some people got no wives. Allah help you anyway. Yeah. The greeting would be only given to those people who you know. How many of us experience this? If I know you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If I don't know you, who are you? You know what I mean? Ahlan wa sahlan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I go over there. Or we only give salam to our own tribes people. Somalis say salam to the Somali people. Pakistanis, they give salam to the Pakistani people. And we can't even recognize our own selves as being Muslims. We are Pakistani first, Muslim second, or British first, Muslim last, and Caribbean third, fourth, fifth, Pathan, Khan, Chaudhry, whatever it is, something third, fourth, fifth. Complete loss of Islamic identity. More than that would be the prevalence of random killing, to the point where Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described how a man would kill a person, and when you ask him, why did you kill this person? He said, I don't even know. And the one who was killed, he himself doesn't even know why he was killed. How much of that we find nowadays? How many stories you hear, even in relation to what the brothers were talking about? A man goes on trial, for example, in the court here in Manchester somewhere. Why did you kill that woman? I heard voice inside my head. The voice was saying to me, just kill that woman. You ask the family, the relatives, why do you think your daughter was killed? We don't know. She never had no problem with anybody. It wasn't a love relationship which just fell apart. Nothing happened. So these are some of the signs. More than that, drinking and fornication will increase heavily. Spread of musical instruments. The population of men will decrease to the point there will be 50 women for every man. There will be false prophets, 30 people who would come at least proclaiming to be prophets. There will be an abundance of wealth, and people will be struggling to find who are we going to give zakat al-fitr to, or zakat al-mal to. We struggle within this country. You can't tell me, I don't believe personally there's anybody in this country that's poor. There's nobody really in this country who's poor. You want to know who's poor? Go to Syria. You want to know who's poor? Go to Burma, go to Mali, go to Palestine, go to Afghanistan, go to Iraq. These are people who wake up in the morning and they don't know if they're going to wake up in the morning. Why? Because B-52, F-16 fighter jets flying over their own houses, roofs being blown off. I remember watching a documentary a few years ago. Man inside Palestine, he said, this is the 4th time that the Israelis, they bomb my own house, rebuilding his own house. Or more than that, he lost his entire family. 2 generations of his entire family being completely wiped out. What about the history of Bosnia, Iraq, chemical war sanctions, 500,000 children being killed inside Iraq, white phosphorus being used now inside Syria, also being used inside Iraq, also being used, in fact, before Iraq, in 2007, I believe it was, inside Fallujah, being used previously inside Palestine as well. And more than that, even in the 50s and the 60s, you can see this experimentation, you can see how the earth is being completely exploited, how the earth is being completely polluted, and how Muslim blood is something cheap nowadays. Muslim blood has become something cheap nowadays. Rivers of blood are flowing. And you and me, we're completely ignorant about it, completely silent about it. Completely not even acknowledging the situation in regards to the affairs of the Muslim Ummah. Killing will increase, time will be shortened, earthquakes will increase, a person will pass by the grave, and he'll wish that he can trade places with that person inside the grave. How could it be such a situation? You find the richest of the richest in this society getting drunk, suicide, drugs problem, suicide problem, depression problem. And we're meant to be living in a role model society where our own people, and by our own people I mean people from the Middle East or from the Asian subcontinent, they're all running here. They're running here with their handkerchiefs and their suitcases at the airports trying to get in here. People are hiding on the bottom of aircraft. I remember in my area there's a Nigerian, he fell off the plane. He was hiding inside underneath the wheel, he fell off the plane. He's trying to come here, get a job for £2.50 as a cleaner. People leaving Muslim countries, so-called third world countries, to come to the West, when the people in the West themselves don't even know what their own purpose of life is. They don't even know what the whole maqsad. What's it really all about? Money, fashion, women, fast cars. Then what? The best of the best amongst them was who? Michael Jackson. You look to his face, you don't know whether you're looking at a man or an ape. Whether he's black, whether he's white, the man's running around with one glove on. He can't even walk forwards, he has to walk backwards half the time as well on the stage. Concerts, his best friend was what? Chimpanzee. What does that tell you? And I know I use this, maybe it sounds funny to you, but this is what our youth themselves, they're rushing towards these kind of role models. I want to be like him. Some rapper, some singer, Amy Winehouse, crackhead, dying. So many of them. How Allah has humiliated them. And in fact, one of the signs of the hour, that those who are the lowest of the low, they start to become elevated. Role models. Role models, many of them we can mention. I don't even want to mention their names because of the audience here. But some of them involved in the haramest of haram things that you can possibly think of. And people are saying, I want to be like her when I grow up. And this is what you will find. Homosexuality and lesbianism will become commonplace. Men would dress like women. And this, my dear brothers, is where we become so immune to this, in fact, as well. This is something which needs to be brought to our attention as well. How many times, for example, you turn on the television, you'll see a man dressed up as a woman, you know what they're trying to sell? Washing powder. Foxy bingo, something like that. Something silly. And you and me, first time we watch it, we think, A'udhu Billah. Second time, we just carry on watching it. Some of us, when we're growing up, we become embarrassed if we see a man and a woman kiss on the TV screen. That's maybe in the 80s or 90s for some of you. Now you see a man dressed up as a woman, literally, with makeup on. It does not even click to your mind. You think, oh yeah, that was a very good washing powder. Without to say, Na'udhu Billah. What do you think Umar ibn Khattab would say about a man dressed up as a woman with makeup on and all the latest makeup as well, probably as well, and a wig on as well, and they're trying to sell Bingo and Daz Ultra. And we're too worried about, look, the whites came out good, isn't it? That one I definitely need to buy. Buy one, get one free at Tesco's. Call your ummi up, tell her to go and buy that for you. Stack it up. And you know what some of us are like as well? Buy one, get one free doesn't mean buy one, get one free. When you go to buy one, get one free, it means fill up the entire trolley, take the entire shelf, you know, and sell it in your own grocery shop as well, for double the price as well. Even though it says you're not supposed to have it on a resale, but people still do that. More signs of the hour, in fact, so many of them. I mean, I've got a list here of just 24 that I could get for you in regards to the minor signs. I don't want to speak about all of them. However, look to how the signs of the hour are being described as a fitna, as a fitan for us. Being mentioned on the authority of Az-Zubair ibn Adi. They said, we went to Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, we complained about the wrong that we were suffering at the hands of Al-Hajjaj. And Al-Hajjaj, he was a Muslim ruler, and some people they contend that, some people in fact they declared him to be an apostate ruler. But he was nevertheless an oppressive ruler against the Muslims. And Anas, he said, have sabr, have patience, for they will have sabr until you meet your Lord, for a time will come upon you after every trial and tribulation, that the next trial and tribulation that will come to you will be much worse than the previous trial and tribulation. Think about that for a moment. 2009, they were bombing in January. They killed about 3,000 in 1 week inside Palestine. And people were going crazy inside this country. Muslims were saying, we can't accept this. People are doing demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy. People are waving placards. People were having demonstrations in 2003. Stop the war coalition. To stop the British and the Americans and the UN troops from entering inside Iraq. Who would have possibly imagined about Bilad al-Sham? Syria. Syria being bombed and killed, and now the figure is through the roof. We don't even know. I mean, the brother would be able to tell you afterwards, maybe 150,000, 200,000 people being killed. Now some news recently just came out, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. There is a prison inside Syria, a woman's prison, where Alawi, Kafir soldiers, they're given half an hour with one woman every day. And some of them have become pregnant. Some of them women, they've been raped maybe 15 times a day. Some of them, na'udhu billah, some of them are even being abused with animals as well, being inserted inside their own private parts. Who would have possibly imagined this to be our own situation? But this is the reality. The signs of the hour, they are there, they are present. all of the other things that we can talk about alcohol and all of these things, but it's a matter for us to be aware and have this consciousness. What exactly is going on? What exactly then is our responsibility in regards to that? That's why I don't want this to be some talk where you just come, listen, it's entertainment. And this is what all our deen has become about. Sadly, this is what's become amongst the Muslim community, amongst the practicing Muslim community. We have conference upon conference talking about problem after problem. And you go out, you have your food, you buy something, some attar or some nice jilbab or shawar kameez or thobe, whatever. Go home, forget about it. Turn on the TV, get yourself a nice mug of soup, and that's it. It's like as if the problem doesn't affect you. The problems which should be affecting you is the problems of our ummah. Why? Because sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no one of you is a true believer. The one who wakes up in the morning without concern for the affairs of the Muslim ummah. And sadly, we find this amongst our own selves. Someone down the road, he's in trouble. A sister, maybe she's struggling with her children. Maybe her husband, maybe he died, or maybe he's been arrested or whatever. We turn a blind eye. We turn a blind eye. There's a new revert, for example. They take shahada. Who's going to teach him? Who's going to teach her? Many people are very boastful nowadays and very proud to come out, mashallah, from my hands, as if hidayah is inside your own hands. 15 people took shahada from me. Where are these reverts? Who's cultivating them? Who's educating them? Who's teaching them? Who's spending time with them? Who's looking after them? Who's looking after the children? Who's looking after the youth? Who's looking after the elderly? Who's looking after the disabled from the Muslim community as well? We have this problem. Don't think that the Muslim community is immune from elderly people or from disabled people. But we completely ignore it, completely blinded by it. Why? No attention being given to what Allah and His Messenger, they said. Nothing would remain of Islam but the name. But the name, nothing would remain of the Quran except traces of writing. And this is what we find. Alhamdulillah, and that's it. People are having competitions. My Taraweeh was very fast, He done the whole of Surah Al-Baqarah within 10 minutes. My one, he done it within 15 minutes and a half. Let's choose which one to go to. How many times you drive in the car? Haram for us to listen to music. But one common mistake we make is, we replace the music with the tilawat of the Quran. Let's just put the Quran on. Let's just put the Quran on, just have it on as some background noise. How many people are doing that? Some people are getting copies of the Quran, hanging it inside the car. They believe it's going to protect the car from something. Hanging it around there. Or Quran is just a book on the bookshelf. This is the worst case scenario, in fact, as well. The most commonplace situation. The Quran is on the bookshelf, gathering dust. Month of Ramadan, you pick it up, you read it, but guess what? You don't even understand it. You don't take any benefit from it whatsoever. The ayat which talk about Jannah, the ayat which talk about Jahannam, the ayat which talk about the Qasas al-Anbiya, about the stories of the Anbiya, al-Wala wal-Bara, loving and hating for the sake of Allah, what the plots and the plans of the American government is for Syria, which are already detailed within the Quran as well. You can find them. Maybe America not being mentioned by name, but Allah has mentioned about the plots and the plans of the disbelievers of the awliya of shaitan, about the awliya of the tawahid. We don't read them. We don't reflect upon them. Nothing is being taken. And that's why I always say, if you really want to know your own self, how do you find out about your own self? You ask your best friend, you ask your wife. You won't even trust her. You won't believe her. You won't believe your father. Your father, your mother have been telling you for years, fix up. When are you going to sort yourself out? Leave the nightclubs, leave the gambling, all this and that. You say, no, I'm very good, I'm park. I'm not park yet, But one day I'm going to get, my heart is good. 40 years old, I'm going to become Haji Baba, come back and open up a halal meat shop, and I'll be all good, I'll be all sorted. But read the Quran. In the Quran, you read the ayat about the people of Jannah, Ahl Jannah, and the people of Ahl Nar. And then you'll be able to find your own place within there. In which direction I'm going in. And sadly, this is something which we don't want to do. We want a job, we go to a careers advisor. A careers advisor will tell you, well, look, judging by your CV, we believe that you should work inside McDonald's. What? Na'udhu billah, you beat her up. But when you want to find out about your own self, where is my destination inside the akhirah? Nobody's reading it. Nobody's picking up the verses of the Quran. Abu Bakr, he said, there'll be much fitna. He reported from Rasulullah saying there'll be much fitna. To the point that the one who is sitting will be better than the one who's standing, and the one who's standing will be the one who's better than the one who's running. Behold, when that turmoil it comes, the one who has a camel or a sheep, then he should flee with his own religion. And someone asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is your opinion of the one who has no camel or no sheep? Meaning there's such trial and tribulation is going to come that you have to escape from this. He said, take hold of your sword and strike his edge on a stone and find a way to escape. Now, a similar narration in regards to this, same hadith, but different wording. But let's bring a couple of things to your attention, because I'm going to repeat this hadith 3 times for you. And then we'll begin to understand the lesson that we're trying to gain. Someone asked, what if I'm drawn into a group and made to march in a rank, and a man should strike me with his sword, and an approaching arrow should kill me? Then he replied, he would bear the punishment of his sin as well as your own sins, and that person will become an inhabitant of the hellfire. We can apply this to who? The army of Bashar al-Assad. That's good and glad tidings for the believers. For those Muslims who are being killed inside Sham, for those Sunni, Ahl Sunnah believers today, who are being massacred, who are being bombed, who are being raped, who are being killed, who are being tortured, inshallah, Jannah for them, and hellfire for those who oppress our brothers and sisters. And more than that, in a similar narration, when he spoke about striking the sword and being killed, and this one being reported on the authority of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, he said, fitna will appear in this ummah like dark portions of the night. You know, when the dark portions of the night, they come in, they come very fast. Very fast. That's why in the winter, we have a shorter space of time for the Salatul Maghrib and the Salatul Isha. You have to pray it very quickly. You can't just wait until, 2-3 hours like in the summertime. And he said, when this happens, a man will wake up as a mu'min and he will go to bed as a kafir. He will wake up as a mu'min and he will go to bed as a kafir. And vice versa as well. He'll wake up in the morning as a mu'min and go to bed as a kafir. He'll go to bed as a mu'min and wake up in the morning as a kafir. So on and so forth. What is that fitna? Allah Azza wa Jalla said inside the Quran, Al-fitnatu akbaru min al-qatli. Al-fitnatu ashaddu min al-qatli. Fitna, it is greater than killing. Fitna, it is stronger than killing. Now many people, they say, Aki, don't make fitna. This is fitna. What you're talking about is fitna. This is going to bring fitna to the Muslim community. In fact, if we look to that fitna, in the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, being explained on the authority of Mujahid, and Ikrimah, and Sa'id ibn Jubair, and Qatada, and Al-Rabi ibn Anas, they said, verily fitna, it is kufr and shirk. Now why we need to mention this is because one of those signs of the hour where a man will wake up as a Muslim and he'll go to bed as a kafir, they exist today. How? When we start to take the kalima of La ilaha illallah, not understand it, negate it, violate it, by doing one of 2 actions. Either something called istihlal or istibdal, ruling and judging by other than what Allah Azza wa Jal has revealed, or replacing the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. Replacing the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. Inside our own lands, that is our own situation. You need to ask your own self. There's somebody here from Pakistan, somebody here from Bangladesh, somebody here from Egypt. What brought you and me inside where? The Islamic State of Great Britain? With Amir al-Mu'mineen, Queen Elizabeth? No. Or Dawood Kamrun as the Mujahid, Amir al-Mu'mineen? No. Uli Amr? No. It was, my dear brothers, the carving of our own lands, the distribution of our own resources, just as the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, another sign of the hour for you, in fact, when nations will soon gather around you, like one being invited to a meal. What was your favorite meal, Abu Umar? Tandoori chicken. Tandoori chicken. I like tandoori chicken as well. If he likes tandoori chicken, I like tandoori chicken. Like one being invited to a meal. One nation will say, let me take this part. Another one will say, let me take this part. When the Sahaba, when they asked, it was on the authority of Tawban, Ya Rasulullah, why would that be? Would it be because we would be small in number, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, no, you'll be large in number. Large in number, large conferences, big masajid that we have. Big conferences that we have, big demonstrations that we have. But you will be like the froth upon the ocean. You'll be like the dirt upon the ocean. You'll have love of dunya, hatred of death. And that's what we find ourselves. Love of dunya, hatred of death. Love of money, hatred of giving up any wealth for the sake of Allah. Love of our own bed, sleeping on our own pillow. We don't want to give that up for the sake of Allah. We don't want to sacrifice for the sake of Allah. We don't want to move forward in the cause of Allah for the sake of Allah. We don't want to establish anything. Why? Me, myself and I. Ana. I only think about myself. And this is not the state of a Muslim. This is not how the Sahaba they were. The Sahaba, for your information, some of them, they divorced their own wives and offered them to their own companions. Some of them, like Bilal, radiyallahu anhu, he used to give the money in abundance for sadaqah. Abundance for sadaqah to the point where the companions, they went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they complained about him. Can you imagine that? You're giving sadaqah and you're with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and inshallah we will meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and be with him in Jannah inshallah as well. These people are complaining about you. It's not nice, you know, when your best friend goes and complains about you to someone older than you. You think, what's wrong with you? Were you a snitch or something? Were you a fed? Are you working with the what are you doing? Were you working with the police or something? Why are you always going to tell on me for? And when they went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they said, this is the case with Bilal. Whatever money he has, he gives it all away to the point he has nothing for himself. Rasulullah said, is that really the case? Summon Bilal, call Bilal. When Bilal came forward, he said, is this true what I'm hearing from you? Is this true? You know, if you went home and you know your very own self, if your mother asked you, I gave you £20 this morning, what did you do with it? Did you buy sweets? Did you buy fish and chips? Did you pay for that school trip? Nope. I gave it all to the children inside Sham. What is wrong with you? Are you pagal or something? Are you mad? Are you majnoon? What's those people got to do with you? You're supposed to, we need that money. David Cameron, he said he's going to have cuts inside this country. Housing benefit is going to get cut off. Income support is going to get cut off. Job seekers allowance, disability allowance, so many different names. I don't know which ones they have. So many of them. They're all going to get cut off, and you're giving all of this money away. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Bilal, radiyallahu anhu, he said, oh Bilal, spend in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal, He will not decrease your wealth. He will not decrease your rizq, because whatever is written for you is written for you. The rizq is what? Something tangible and non-tangible. I've got nothing in my pocket, in fact, my wallet's somewhere in the car, yeah? I could have nothing inside my own pocket, but I could have strong iman, strong happiness. I can have knowledge, for example. Or I can have a lot of money, but I can still be miskeen. I could be somebody really, really poor. How? No deen inside my own life. Rasulullah said, spend in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. Sacrifice in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why, in another incident, in fact, when he was sitting with his companions, and he asked them, tell me what you love for the sake of Allah. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he said, I like to spend time with you. I like to see your face. Other Sahabi, he said, I like to read the Quran. Another companion, I forget his name now, but he said, I like hunger, I like sickness, and I love death. Who from amongst you can put your hand up now and said, me, I love hunger, I love sickness, and I love death? No way. What do you love? You love your food, yeah? You like your car, you like your income support. If you like that, fair enough. Who am I to argue, yeah? You like these things? He said, I like hunger, I like sickness, I like death. Yeah, the companions decided to say, what's wrong with this man? Who's going to come out of hunger, sickness, and death? He said, if I'm hungry, I'll ask Allah. And if I'm sick, Allah will forgive me. And if I die, then I get to meet my Lord. You see the outlook on their life and the outlook on our life, how different it is. This is why sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said inside the hadith, which Abu Manisa he mentioned, Bada Islamu ghariban wa sayudu ghariban kama bada fatuba lil ghuraba. Islam came as something strange, something ajib gharib, and it will go back to something strange. So tuba for the ghuraba. And ghuraba being described as those people who make hijrah. Ghuraba being described as those people who migrate away from the shirk, away from the kufr, to a place where they can practice their own religion. They are known to command good, forbid evil. They are known to speak the truth. They are known to uphold the Islamic values, the moral values which Islam has. How many of us from amongst us, the Muslim community, we do that today? How many of us we do that today? Now, in regards to the manifestation of that fitna, is, my dear brothers, what is contemporarily known as the global crusade. And now we move on really to the major signs of the hour, from the minor to the major signs of the hour. Being reported in the Sahih Bukhari on the authority of Auf ibn Malik sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, and look to this hadith, my dear brothers. Wallahi, you'll be able to envisage and picture this hadith in your own mind. In your own mind you'll be able to envisage this. When they plot against you, they will come under 80 banners, and every banner will harbor 12,000 soldiers. A lesson for you, for those people who believe we should put our trust, our reliance in what? In United Nations, in America, or in Britain, that they're going to help us inside Bilad al-Sham. They are the ones who are going to help and liberate Palestine. Don't you know? They are the ones who gave away Palestine to the Yahud, to the Zionists. Don't you know? They are the ones who killed us inside Iraq maybe 2 or 3 times, in 2 or 3 different wars. And these type of hadith, in fact, don't be fooled that it's just Muslims that are aware of this. Even American congressmen, they are aware of this. That's why one senator, he was talking about maybe 30 years ago, about the Great World War, World War III. After talking about the Russians, after talking about communism, what's next on the agenda? Richard Nixon, he spoke in his own book. He had a book called Race with the Swift, or Racing with the Swift. And he said, we also believe that there's two types of houses in the world. And he wasn't talking about semi-detached houses. He said, there is Darul Islam and Darul Harb, meaning the house of war. The house of war is this democratic system, democracy, freedom, secularism, man-made laws. This is, my dear brothers, the real game, my dear sisters, the real game and the real struggle for what it's really about. What you find in terms of conflicts around the world, it is a global crusade against Islam and Muslims. This struggle, it began from the time of Adam alayhi salam, when Allah ordered Shaitan to bow down to Adam alayhi salam, and he said, how can I bow down to him when he was made out of clay and I'm made out of smokeless fire? And what was it that Shaitan, how did Shaitan deceive Adam alayhi salam? He said, eat from the tree of life, and I'll give you a kingdom which will never decay. Same old trick of the Shaitan. Same old trick of how the Shaitan, how he plays with us. Only got 10 minutes. Okay, no problem. Being reported in Ahmed and Bukhari, Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the victory at the end will be for the Muslims, who will rise and conquer Constantinople and Italy, who will liberate Palestine and fight the Jews. Then after that will come the big signs of the hour. The big signs of the hour. And I'm going to skip and go to a couple of other points because I can't finish my entire topic. But you can see that mission is, they're attempting to fulfill it nowadays. The Crusaders' aims, and then you got the Muslim aim. The Crusader aim is what? Let me just give you 3 points in regards to that, 3 points in regards to the Muslim aim, and hopefully we can finish the topic. First of all, the Crusaders' aim is what nowadays? For them to colonize our own belief in pursuit of what? Material pursuit, for greed, for nationalism. And you can add to that as much as you want. Muslim aim is what? Muslim aim is believing that no one is worthy of worship in truth and obeyed and followed except Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-ifradullahi bil-ibadah, to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal exclusively, to reject all false gods, to reject all false tawahid, to reject all false andad, arbab, anything which is a rival with Allah Azza wa Jal. Anyone who sets himself up as a partner with Allah Azza wa Jal, to give that up, to believe that it's obligatory for us to live by the Sharia of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is the real aim and real game of every sincere Muslim who's struggling anywhere in the world today. Aid convoys are nice, aid convoys are good, charities are good, but not until those lands have been liberated, we will not find ourselves in any peace and any tranquility. Believing also in the hereafter and accountability. This is also the aim of the Muslims. Then we need to ask the question, my dear brothers, that with everything that is happening today, what then lies ahead for the Muslims? In fact, the signs of the hour, they continue. There will be the coming of the Mahdi. Good news for us as believers. But we don't want to talk about the Mahdi in a superficial way and believe that we sit here, we say nothing and we don't do anything. Rather, the Mahdi has been spoken about. In fact, the Mahdi being described that when he comes, it will be after much turmoil, earthquakes in the eastern part of the world, after much wars. And when he comes, the Ummah will be so rich, to the point where wealth will become in abundance, justice will become in abundance. The Mahdi will ask, in fact, who from amongst you he wants money? One man will come and say, give me the money, give me the money. And the Mahdi will say, go to the treasurer and tell him, I, the Mahdi, have ordered for you to have some wealth. And then this man will come forward with his own kameez, with his own kapre on, and the treasurer will give him money, so much money that his entire clothing will be full with wealth. He'll feel embarrassed. Why did I even ask for this money? He will go back to the Mahdi and he said, I have to return some of this money. The Mahdi will say, we are a people who give, and when we give, we don't take back. What a lesson for us today. Are we people of generosity? Are we people of justice? Are we people of accountability, who have this self-accountability? And this is, my dear brothers and sisters, the real thing, the real matter, the essence of the matter, which you and me are missing today. We don't have this self-accountability. Waking up in the morning and accounting yourself. Umar ibn Khattab, he said, account yourself before you are brought to account. And weigh your own deeds before they are weighed for you. Weigh your own deeds. Then there will be the coming of the Dajjal. And the Dajjal in itself is a massive topic. He will rule for 40 days and he will attack the army of the Mahdi. Then the final stand will happen in Al-Quds. Where is Al-Quds? Inside Palestine, near Jerusalem. Then you will have the ascension or the descension, however you want to put it, of Isa alayhi salam, of Jesus, who will come on the wing of the angels in Damascus. And immediately when he arrives inside Damascus, again we're talking about Syria here. Look to all of the countries that we mentioned. There's other countries I want to talk to you about. For example, like Egypt, and for example, in fact, even Iran as well. There'll be wars taking place. There's hadith prophecies being spoken about the army of black flags from Khorasan. And where's Khorasan? Khorasan is Afghanistan. This is going to be, it's one of the signs of the hour. This will be the best army. From Khorasan is Afghanistan. Iran hasn't been conquered yet, but they will march to Al-Quds. And they will be the best army. And Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in fact encouraged us to be with that particular army, to support that particular army. The Isa alayhi salam will come, and then he will go from Damascus to Al-Quds. When he arrives at Al-Quds, will be the Mahdi. With the Mahdi will be 1,200 believers, 800 men, 400 women. At the time of Salatul Fajr, when Isa alayhi salam, he will come. And imagine this now, my dear brothers. You're standing in prayer with who? Who's leading you? Imam Mahdi. And who's next to you praying Salatul Fajr? Isa alayhi salam. You have to ask yourself, what would make me eligible to be in the company, if Allah He wills, for you to be standing next to Isa alayhi salam? Do you even possess those particular qualities? That's why we don't want to just have some midnight tales, children's stories, story of the 3 men inside the cave, and we don't even take any lesson from it. No. We need to bring it to light, bring it to reality. And the people, they will say, why don't you lead the prayer to Isa alayhi salam? Isa alayhi salam, he will refuse. He will say, you have your own Amir, you have the Mahdi, let him lead the prayer. After the prayer has finished, then Isa alayhi salam, he will order for the gate to be opened of Al-Quds. And the Dajjal, he will come and he will see Isa alayhi salam. When he sees Isa alayhi salam, it will be as if he wants to turn into dust. Whether he is attacked or not attacked, he can turn into dust. And in fact, he will run like the speed of dust away from Isa alayhi salam. And then Isa alayhi salam, he will chase him with his own lance or sword, you can say, and kill the Dajjal and raise up the sword. And then you will find security and this sakina in the hearts of the believers. The rest of the army, they will run away. And then Isa alayhi salam, we talk about the Messiah, or like people say in English, Messiah. Yeah, he will. In fact, what that really means is when someone anoints someone's face. And Isa alayhi salam, he will anoint the faces of the believers and inform them of their place in Jannah. And then Allah Azza wa Jal, he will reveal to Isa alayhi salam, verily Allah has raised an army who can never be defeated. Therefore gather my servants at Mount At-Tur, at mountain of At-Tur. And that's dispute about that, whether it's Palestine or in Egypt. And then you'll have other matters which will occur, such as the appearance of Gog and Magog. And then Allah Azza wa Jal, he will send a sickness and they will die. And then Isa alayhi salam, he will rule for his rest of his natural life. Now, it's a massive topic. It's not something we can just discuss within 45 minutes, my dear brothers. But you can appreciate here, with the appearance of the Mahdi, with the appearance of the Dajjal, and with the ascension of Isa alayhi salam, or the appearance of Isa alayhi salam, really there needs to be this encouragement for us to be able to challenge false ideas, for us to have this spirit to move forward, to come and say, this is Islam, and this is my role as a Muslim, and here I am going to be a good muwahid. I'm going to be a true servant of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I'm going to try and defend the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal by whatever capability I have. And I will stand with the believers, and I will be with the believers. So when you hear tonight now, as a brother will speak to you about, we need to raise money, for example, for Sham, treat them as your own brothers and sisters. Give generously for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. Give generously for the orphans. Give generously for your sisters. As the brother, he mentioned quite rightly, the fatwa has been released inside Syria now, where those men, women and children, they are now allowed to eat cats. This is the dire situation, my dear brothers and sisters, of the Muslim Ummah. So remember the Muslim Ummah, and remember the hadith that I mentioned to you earlier, and I want to finish it again with this hadith, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no one of you is a true believer, the one who wakes up in the morning without concern for the affairs of the Muslim Ummah. And may Allah give us a tawfiq to have this concern for the affairs of the Muslim Ummah, assist the Muslim Ummah, and give victory to Allah, His Messenger, and the Deen, and the Muslims, and lift off this oppression which we face. After the hardship, my dear brothers, Allah has mentioned comes ease, but requires us to do our duty as much as we can for the sake of Allah. If there's anything good I said, it's all from Allah. Any mistakes, they're all but my own. Wa sallallahu Sayyid Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair, Waleed, for an insight into the minor signs and major signs